Alright guys, I'm excited to show you this new project. It's a Craftsman style Ottoman that you can build in a weekend, and that includes finishing and upholstery work. The main two tools we'll be using to build this Ottoman are a table saw and a bandsaw. Stick around, we'll get right into it. So with the Ottoman project, you can see it's a pretty small list of parts that you have to rip and cross-cut to size. Once you get to this point, it's just a matter of laying out the mortise locations on your legs. We'll get that all laid out and then off to the mortiser and we'll cut out those mortises. Okay, so we'll lay out the mortises and the legs. Just about 11/16 from the top will be the top of our large mortise here to accommodate the 4-inch rails. And then our next number is another 3 5/8 inch lower. Okay, so we'll set that lower edge of the mortise. And then these lower mortises come in 2 1/16 from the bottom of the leg. Those mortises are 1 1/8 inches tall. Remember that the mortises and the legs are offset, so set that inner mortise wall 7/16 from the inside edge of the leg. There we go. And we'll just knock out those mortises. I encourage you guys to install a little safety loop on all of your power saws, just a length of extension cord right up here by the switch, so you can completely unplug from power when you're doing blade changes or any routine maintenance. The Fusion F2 has a nice long arbor, so you can install a full dado stack for cutting tenons. Okay, so we'll take our rail pieces and go ahead and form tenons on the end with a dado blade. The mortise will be the ultimate judge of the tenon fitment here. So when you can just nestle the tenon into the mortise, that's close enough. We'll finish up with a shoulder plane. So you could certainly cut your tenons to exact size at the table saw, but here's where I like to go old school. A few swipes with a shoulder plane will get everything fitting just right. Looks like we've got a nice friction fit there. Where the wide rails come together and intersect with the leg of the Ottoman, we need to miter those tenons so everything fits snugly together. We'll do that at the bandsaw with a miter gauge. Well, it's time for a good test fitting of the Ottoman. If your parts fit together as they should and nice and flat and stable on a level surface, why then you can cut the V shape on the long rails as well as the little decorative pyramid shape on top of the legs. We'll get into those details next. you have a sander with a tilting table and miter gauge, that's a real nice way to form the diamond pyramids on top of the legs. Set the angle of the table to 15 degrees and use a coarse grit belt to shape the top of the legs. Okay, we'll just add the last couple clamps for this permanent assembly on the Ottoman. And next up, we'll be adding the cleats for the seat frame. One of the main advantages of the Fusion F2 fence is you can slide the fence back until it's in front of the blade and retighten the knob. That way you can make cross cuts on small pieces and there's nothing to be trapped between the fence and the blade. So we'll go ahead and square an end and cut these cleats to length. Things to be almost automatic when it comes time for assembly, and to that end I've milled shallow dados in each of the 4 wide rails at the top, and those will just receive these cleats for the seat frame, and so those will just slide in position. They're glued and screwed in place, and we'll attach those now. Install both of the long cleats first, and they actually need notches to fit around your leg posts. And so we'll do the long cleats first, and then we'll finish up with the 2 short cleats. So that's all there is to the cleat system that supports the seat frame. Just narrow cleats. They're just 1 inch wide by 3/4 inch thick, and again they're just set into a shallow dado for a nice even registration point so that everything comes out flat and really does a good job at receiving the seat cushion. Okay, let's go ahead and rip some strips for the seat frame. We'll need strips that are 1.5 inches wide, and we're using ash, which is a really nice hardwood that takes tacks well, so we've chosen ash for our seat frame. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to make half-lap joints for our seat frame, and we'll do that with the dado blade on the table saw. Set the width of your rip fence so that it's equal from the distance between the left edge of the blade and the fence. Saw's unplugged here. And then set your dado blade height so it just approaches half of the thickness of the material, which is 3/8 in this case. I'll drop it just a little lower than that to start, and we'll start making test cuts. After the first pass, our parts don't quite come together, so we're going to raise the blade slightly and make another pass. And now with our blade height adjusted correctly, the parts just slide together and make a nice half-lap joint. Okay, with all the joinery cut for the seat frame, we're clear to go ahead and glue up the half-lap joints, and these make really strong joints for seat frames. It's a joint that was traditionally used that way, and I see no reason to change it because I've never seen one fail. They've got a lot of surface area for glue, and they just make a great seat frame joint. So we'll carry on and get this glued together. Okay, so we've got this trans-tint golden brown dye, and it's mixed in a non-grain racing solution that we use lacquer thinner and denatured alcohol for. and just wipe it on really quickly, and it gives a nice undercoat to the Ottoman, and it's going to be part of our matching technique for an antique Limbert finish that we're going to match to. So we'll carry on and get this dye applied, and next up will be the stain. Okay, so we'll just wipe a little bit of oil-based stain on top of the dye and see if we can darken up that color and give it a little richer color. And after that dries for 24 hours, the last step will be top coating it with a little shellac. So we've got a nice little seat frame for the Ottoman project, and the next job is to notch out the corners so it'll set down into the frame of the Ottoman. We'll do that at the bandsaw. Okay, we're all done with the woodworking on the Ottoman project, and we've actually made a little seat frame from ash hardwood. The corners are notched to fit around the legs of the Ottoman frame. Next up is add the jute webbing. So you'll just need a webbing stretcher. There's a couple of varieties. This is a gooseneck webbing stretcher, and you can just use that to create a little bit of tension on the jute webbing and get that started with some staples. I usually use 1/2-inch upholstery staples for this sort of thing, and then we can finish it off with some upholstery tacks. Number 12 upholstery tacks is what we use for anchoring the webbing. You can double that over. Make sure to leave a little bit of vacant wood at the edge of the frame there so it doesn't interfere with the rest of your upholstery. And we can get that going with magnetic tack hammer. If you can, try to stagger your tacks a little bit so you don't split out your hardwood frame. Okay, we're going to start building up the layers of foam for the Ottoman cushion, which in this case is 25-35 upholstery foam. We're going to use two 1-inch layers so that we can hold the base layer back and let the front layer waterfall over the front. We'll see if we can get that to stick down over the edge. You may notice I slightly chamfered the underside of that foam just so I didn't wind up with too much bulk as it buttons down. Okay, so with the same 77 spray glue, we'll add the batting on top. Okay, well, we sewed up our leather cover. It's top grain leather, and it's a pretty easy sewing project in this case. Just did a blind stitch and then a top stitch as well. So if you have a machine that can handle leather, I encourage you to give this project a try. We'll do a test fitting here and see how our cover looks as we start to stretch it in place over the foam. I usually try to make a pretty snug looking leather cover, and I also give myself reference lines about 1 inch from the outside edge of the wood frame, and that way I know approximately how far to pull the leather for a nice snug looking fit. So like so many other upholstery projects, it's just a matter of setting your staples in kind of the cardinal directions to get things started. 2 or 3 shots on either side will roughly position the cover for you. And then we'll be ready to button our side over just like that. So we switched over to short length staples again, and we'll install this dust cover. And basically it's just a non-woven cambric. You can actually substitute landscaping weed barrier fabric if that's easier for you. So we'll just tuck the edges in, and it's really easy to install that way. Guys, thanks for watching the Craftsman style Ottoman project. I hope it's a fun little project that you can tackle in your own shop. You don't need many power tools to get started, just a table saw and a bandsaw primarily, so try one in your own shop. Thanks for watching. High five, Chipper. Good job. Oh, good job.